Can't use the gavel. Call to order the Monday, June 24th, 2024 meeting, regular board meeting. Assuming, Dave, this has been properly notified. Okay, let's begin the meeting with Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Just before we get started here, Stacy is gone tonight, and we have two other board members gone tonight, so there's just four board members here, so we're tight on a quorum. As vice chair, I get the chair. So anyway, a couple of us are wearing masks tonight out of abundance of caution because we've been ill. Don't want to infect anybody, so that's the reason for the masks. Any visitors or delegations wish to address the board before we begin? Yes. Please state your name and your connection with the district, and we typically do about 2 minutes or so.
Okay.
To the microphone, yes.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Wendy Fleury, and I'm here on behalf of my daughter, who is currently at Meyer Middle School. My daughter is 13 years old, and for the past 2 years, she has been dealt a very rough hand. She has numerous medical issues as well as mental health issues. I can count on both hands and still run out of fingers the amount of times in the past 2 years that she has been hospitalized. Most recently, over this winter, we spent 4 months in Colorado, where my family stayed at the Ronald McDonald House praying for my daughter to get better. She's been on feeding tubes, and most recently, last week, rapid response was called at the hospital as she started to crash yet again. I would like to hand out to you, if I could. Mm-hmm. As you can tell, this is a little bit hard for me to talk about and to address you all about tonight. As you're looking over my daughter's transcript, you will see that, well, you won't see the attendance on her transcript, but she missed over 25% of sixth grade, and she missed approximately 90% of seventh grade. That is critical classroom content and academic standards set forth by DPI that my daughter has missed. As you can see from her transcript, most of the periods for grading are all marked no grade. My daughter wasn't in school. Interestingly, for the first quarter, I believe it is, for this year, term 2 of this year, grade 7. My daughter received a 3.4 grade point average. Hooray! She was in school 1 week. She got COVID. And after COVID, her body started shutting down. We found ourselves back in the hospital, back on the feeding tube. Then we were flown out to Denver, Colorado. Well, we prayed for my daughter to get better. No grade, no grade, no grade. My daughter started 7th grade again. In March, she started part-time. She went back to school with her friends full-time in March. By mid-March, she was in school full-time. Still in and out, doctor appointments, therapy appointments. No grade, no grade. But check it out. Check out her GPA, for the end of the school year. 7th grade, guys. 3.52. No grade. No grade. No grade. Tonight, you're going to have a chance to look at the elementary school extra year program and to pass it through with its new adjustments on the policy. I'm going to read you the old policy before you vote on the new one. The extra year of a student should be viewed as a positive and helpful step in furthering the developmental education of the student. In most cases, an extra year provides the student with an additional opportunity to mature physically, emotionally, socially, and academically. A student can grow in self-confidence and self-concept and gain academically during the extra year that's provided. Sounds wonderful, doesn't it? I further go on to the middle school student, policy for retention. And I want you to see what you do. You all know this policy. You're on the board, you stand for the policy. What does the policy state? If a student fails 2 subjects, they have to retake the school year. Students who fail, more than 2 courses shall not be promoted to the next grade. No grade. No grade. No grade. 25% missing of 6th grade. 90% missing of 7th grade. No grade, no grade, no grade. I went to the administration. I begged for my daughter not to pass to 8th grade. She is not ready for 8th grade emotionally, physically, socially. My daughter is not ready. No grade, no grade, no grade. Guess what I was told? Never in my years as an administrator have I ever held back a student. My daughter's going on to 8th grade. Is she ready? Absolutely not. I am begging you tonight to look at your policy. Stand firm on your policy. Do not let my child go on to 8th grade. Do you want my daughter to represent River Falls? Do you want her to walk down that graduation aisle with pride? Or do you want her to just socially pass through? Do you want one of our school resource officers to go and get your truant students and pass them through? What's the point? What's the point of bringing these truant officers and our school resource officers to do what? Pass our kids through. Why should a student come to school? No grade, no grade, no grade. I thank you for your time, and I hope that you will stand up for the policy that you have sworn to stand up for. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
By the way, my contact information is there with my phone number. My phone is on 24/7, as you can well imagine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address the board before we start tonight? Yes.
Jackie Nickham, City of River Falls. There have been a few policy disappointments over the last several months. Number one, when parents complained about the pornographic language in reading assignments, the school board punted to say that procedure had been followed in reviewing the policy, and not one of the individual board members had to state their personal stance on the policy. Number two, the transgender policy adopted in October of 2015 was recently revised and titled Gender Diverse Students, which then became more inclusive. Part of that new policy stated, district staff will honor a transgender student's request to be addressed by a chosen name and/or pronoun corresponding to the student's gender identity, regardless of whether the student has obtained a court-ordered name or gender change. But there is good news on the horizon. The American College of Pediatrics is calling on medical organizations, including the American Academy of Pediatrics and the American Medical Association, among others, to immediately stop the promotion of social affirmation, puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries for children and adolescents who experience distress over the biological sex. On April 19th, 2024, the National Department of Education expanded Title IX rules to include sexual orientation and gender identity, but state legislatures are rejecting the enactment of these changes and have proposed legislation that would protect women's rights. For example, the Kentucky Attorney General stated that the Department of Education's attempt to redefine sex to include gender identity is unlawful and beyond the agency's regulatory authority. A district court judge ordered a preliminary injunction blocking enforcement in 6 states. That's Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, Tennessee, Virginia, and West Virginia. When President Trump is reelected, he has pledged to pull federal funding from any school that promotes CRT, DEI, transgender policies, mask, or vaccination mandates. I would also include social emotional learning on that list, and I thank you for your time.
Anyone else wish to address the board before we begin tonight? Okay. Thank you.
One more.
I'm sorry. Yeah, Pam.
Hi, I'm Pam Souter, community member. Since you are going to address the library plan that also goes along with 871, policy 871, I just wanted to bring up a couple of things for you guys to consider, please. So on your webpage, it says the school district of River Falls is led by a 7-member school board that represents the community values and serves the district. So I don't know what this was about, but I heard somewhere that there was another book review recently. Is that true? That there was some sort of book review recently in the district? Okay. I just heard that. I don't know anything about it, but I know, but when, on this library plan, the policies were listed, and so I was looking at it, and when that statement I just read, I had some questions. I thought, what are the community's values, and how do you know you're representing a wide spectrum of the population? And this is in regard to this library plan. And first of all, I want to say thank you to all the librarians, and Nate, I know you did, and other people worked on the plan. And thank you also for changing the verbiage from maturity level to age appropriate, because that is a big deal. A lot of people, whether they are, whatever group they're in, a lot of them are concerned about age appropriateness. And they don't feel like, and no offense to you, because I know you're a public librarian, but they do feel like there should be a difference between the schools available, the books and curriculum available in the schools versus the public library. And so I just wanted to reinforce that with you so that you know that. I know you know that, but just to reinforce it. And that, so last time there was a review that I had heard about, a lot of parents came up and they were concerned about 9th grade books. And one of the concerns was that in the review, it is primarily made up of school staff. And a couple summers ago, I asked you guys if there could be addition to parental and community input on that, because I think that's how you represent a wide spectrum in the community. And so there was one parent added, and the students were taken off, and the parent that was added was like the complainant, I think is what you call it, could add, a parent. But what I'm going to ask you is to reconsider this, because in a school district, the school district is not that large, But if you have, and nobody wants to ban books, they just want them to be appropriate for the age. They want them to promote, the right values of the community. And so if you have a committee over at this elementary, a committee over at that elementary, a committee at the junior high or whatever, I'm proposing that you consider having one kind of committee that goes over all of the books so they can retain consistency in their decision-making, and that you involve, like you did with human growth and development, involve more community input so that you could adhere to your statement that says it represents the community values. So thank you for listening to me. I typed this out real quickly just before I came, so I'll send it around if you guys want a copy. Thank you.
Okay, you can start them there and we can pass them around. Thank you, Pam. Anybody else like to address the board tonight? Thank you. I apologize for letting that took a little bit longer than we normally allow people, but that was good conversation. Thank you. All right, so the first thing we will do is we have a Wildcat Pride Award tonight, and Lindsay gets to be our designated awarder.
So tonight, we're pleased to welcome Lee Johnson. Do you want to come up? Hi, Lee. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
The Board of Education would like to commend you for demonstrating compassion, selflessness, and genuine kindness without expecting anything in return. You assumed the role of mentor for a younger student and were giving of your time to ensure that he felt connected, valued, and appreciated while modeling positive character traits. Your presence has a profound positive impact on those around you, and you set an example for others on how to put character into action. Lee, you are a true ambassador of Wildcat Pride. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I know that Andrea and Emily are here. I believe they were the two that nominated you, Lee, so I'll give the microphone over to them and let them share a little bit more.
I'm Emily Huber. I'm the school counselor over at Greenwood. This is Andrea Gansky.
School psychologist.
We had a student that came to us this year that just needed a little bit more connection in the school, and so Lee was one of the first names that came to mind, and when we reached out, he was all on board, and we were just impressed by the commitment that he had coming once a week to connect with the student, but also the commitment on making that connection a solid connection. We just saw the student really thrive after making that connection. So we really appreciate all of the time and effort you put into it, Lee. It was awesome. It was really awesome.
On days that Lee was coming, the kid knew exactly what time, would watch the clock, and I've never seen him move so quickly down the hallway. So Lee, thank you for your time, and kudos to you, Mom, Terry, for raising such a wonderful child.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Lee. And it's not just the work that you did, it's the example that you set and the model that you set for younger kids. So that's really great. You are more than welcome to stay for the whole rest of the meeting. However, if you feel you have something else to do, you don't have to stay for the whole meeting. But thank you very much. That's great. Okay, we've got some acknowledgements and updates here tonight that we're going to do. This would have been, should have been, is, I guess, officially our superintendent, Jamie Benson's last meeting. However, both Jamie and his wife have a medical issue tonight, and neither one of them can be here. But we still have some things to say and do. There was a public reception for him a few weeks ago, and there were lots of good things said and shared, and Jamie did not want us to belabor this tonight, but there are some things that we do want to say and comment about. And Stacy left something on behalf of the board, and Lynette is going to read that. So.
Yeah, I told Stacy that I would try to be as prepared and eloquent speaking as she is, and based on my voice and everything, probably not. Anyway. Good evening. Since I am unable to attend this evening, Lynette will read my reflections on the occasion of Jamie's last school board meeting. Jamie, over the years, we have spent a lot of time planning for meetings and school board work. While you have specific rules, like rule number 1, truth is good, which we agree on, my guiding principle for board leadership is process matters. Together, we carefully attended to board processes. Thank you for your partnership. Under your leadership, the River Falls School District has achieved considerable success and a wide range of accomplishments. Through your guidance, we have assembled a strong, cohesive administrative team, nurtured a supportive culture for all staff that includes family-friendly policies, led strategic planning and implemented systems and structures for change, established our school forest as an enduring outdoor learning space, navigated COVID and polarizing political issues that impact education, gathered voter support for financial investment in our schools, demonstrated fiscal responsibility and transparency, upheld and furthered community pride in the school district, expanded social and emotional learning for students, and brought social workers into the schools. And most especially, we kept students' best interest at the center of the district's work. Jamie, you have demonstrated honesty, integrity, wisdom, patience, and true leadership. Whereas some people lead by expecting the spotlight to be on them, you recognize that authentic leadership is service. You've had the courage to make difficult decisions and the grace to recognize the contributions of other people. While the district faced a few challenges and frustrations during your tenure, you have made a lasting positive difference in the lives of thousands of students. Through the strong relationships that you have forged with the board, administrators, teachers, staff, students, families, and the community, you have ensured that public education in the River Falls School District is strong and true, able to achieve Horace Mann's vision of universal public education with an emphasis on building character, a necessity for a vital and lasting democracy. Thank you for being our superintendent. Thank you for your vision and tremendous work. If you get lonely for us, you know right where to find us, at least on Monday evenings. Best wishes for your next adventures, Stacy.
Thank you, Lynette. And we'll include that statement in the minutes of the meeting for tonight.
Alan, I'm gonna,
Okay.
it's okay.
Yeah.
So my job then is to speak for Jamie. So I know Jamie and Stacy would have much rather have been the ones to speak, but sometimes things happen. And so Jamie apologizes for his absence, but he did want to say thank you to the board and the community for trusting me with this honor and responsibility of serving as your superintendent. I thank many people, the board, faculty, and staff members, students and their families, and the community. I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve the River Falls community alongside so many talented people. I will always respect and appreciate the amazing faculty and staff, as well as the community that puts children first, continuously, showing unwavering support to our schools and students. Thank you. It has been a great privilege and honor.
It's, I think this is, so the historian in me would say this is the end of the Benson era and the beginning of the Bell era, right? One of the things that we know from our involvement with the WASB is that the most important job of a school board is to hire and support a superintendent. And if you get the superintendent decision right, other things will come much easier. Jamie was hired when Stacy, Mike, and I were on the board, so the three of us are still on the board. And to have a superintendent for 11 years is unique. To have a superintendent of the quality and experience that Jamie brought to us was even more unique. He's mentored a whole bunch of people in this school district, including us board members. He's made help us with transition to new board members. I continually learn things from Jamie. He's open and transparent and been a very good conduit and counsel for all of us as board members as we have fielded issues related to the curriculum, the school, the running of the school, the budgets, and especially as we work with the community and has been our face to the community so much. We're a public school and there are many, many faces in this district that need to be communicated with and understood. So I appreciate Jamie and wish him well. He's got some really cool grandkids we met the other night, and hope he gets to spend a lot of time with them. So sorry he can't be here, but we'll miss him. But it's all the pressure is on Dave now. So speaking of which, so anyway, anybody else say anything? Otherwise, we'll have some additional reports here. The next step is to have our annual reports from our school resource officers. So, Officer G, you first.
Yes. Mine looks a little different this year. Let's see if I can.
I noticed that.
What's that?
I noticed your
Yeah.
report looked a little different this year.
So I usually put, all the things being done in the schools, talk about the position generally, the philosophy of it, and go into a little more detail as far as things done. Many of you have heard that for several years. Some of you have not. But I do plan on retiring later this summer from law enforcement. So this would be my last school year, this last school year. So very humbled. When I took the position, I put 16 years in with the school, and when I took the position, I was a little nervous to do so. I didn't know. I knew police work. I didn't know the schools. I was apprehensive, anxious, and it didn't take me long before I realized it was the best career decision that I've made coming in the schools. So I'm just humbled. All the people around me, all the support, students, their families, principals. I can name several people that have been here the whole time I've been here, like Mr. Sherman, and they all helped me look good. I got a lot of attaboys over 16 years, and that's not because of me. It's because everybody around me. Superb working in this district as an SRO. Spending years going to conferences, speaking with other officers, different cities, different school districts. This one is excellent. I think it's because of the philosophy that the school district has, that the police department has. I think they mesh. They have a similar philosophy. I have no doubt that it's going to continue and be an excellent program and probably benefit with a little new blood and new ideas and things like that. But I just want to say how much I appreciate everyone and all the support over the years.
Thank you, Chris. It's been a pleasure for me as a board member because I've been here most of that time you've been doing that. And I've said a number of times that we have a model program. There's been lots of discussion in the last 4 or 5 years about school resource officers and should school districts have them, shouldn't we have them? And I'm just like, this is a no-brainer, the way it works here. This has been one of the best things we've ever done, and we so appreciate this partnership with the city. We're blessed with an excellent law enforcement operation in this city, and the fact that you and Ryan have been part of this has been good. Often when I think about issues in school, especially school shootings, et cetera, I always think of you two and know that you're our connection, and that's been so important. And the fact that you answered the call and that you took this position and did it for so long, it's sad for us to see you lost, and I hope that you won't keep that experience and skill under a bushel going forward, and that you'll continue to share and find ways of using this kind of experience. So we will miss you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So
thanks.
Thanks, y'all. Turn it over to Brian.
Yeah, I'm going to miss him a lot because when I first started in law enforcement, it was 20 plus years ago. He was my FDO. Mm-hmm. And so then when I got in this position, guess what? He was the guy showing me the ropes in this position as well. So he'll be definitely greatly missed in that perspective. I'm sure we'll catch a lot of Packer games down the road, but in the setting of this setting here, it's a pleasure to have him around and suck in some of the knowledge that he has. So I appreciate that very much. So thank you, Chris. I just completed my 6th year as a school resource officer and at the high school, and since Chris is stepping down from the middle school, I'm going to do some transitioning into the Meyer Middle School and elementary school. So I do look forward to that. I was looking through Officer G's notes a couple days ago, and boy, do I have some big shoes to fill, that's for sure. So just looking forward to the new opportunity, new experiences, generate with meet a whole different student population, and kind of go from there too. So I'm really excited about that. Also a little apprehensions is because like I said, he's big shoes to fill. So, throughout the year, I sure appreciate everybody's support with our program itself. I felt it was another successful year at the high school. We did a lot of great things. We worked with Al's program, helped out with the lifeguarding class, was able to get in some health classes for speeches and talks regarding drugs and vapes and everything else like that, especially with fentanyl being such a more popular drug. We talked a lot about that as well. So, but I just really appreciate the opportunity and continue to work with you, with the school district as well, and everybody here. So thank you so much.
Good. Thanks, Ryan.
I'll introduce you to my new high school resource officer, Adam Amaro.
I'm not as tall, so I got to lower the mic here, so. So I apologize. So I'm Officer Adam Amaro. I hail from the great state of Massachusetts. I've been a cop for some time. I came to River Falls probably about 3 years ago, so I'm just going to give you a little background of myself. So came to River Falls 3 years ago, had a job opportunity after meeting someone on a deployment who was actually a River Falls cop already. So he was the one that brought me in this direction. Married, have 2 little girls. Hopefully they'll be getting into the River Falls School District here soon. That'd be great. But yeah, the school resource officer position, when I applied for it, you know, it's a position where we're not just always the hammer, right? We're not always just going to hand out truancy tickets or do all this stuff. And we're here to obviously mentor the kids too, right? We're here to have open minds with them, talk with them. Not everything has to be a bad conversation. Just last Thursday, I just did a ride along with a high school student just on Thursday. He came out for a shift and hung out, and we talked and kind of gave me the little insight on the high school too on top of it, which was kind of a good thing too, right? So, you know, kind of use it to my advantage. But like Brian said too, I've only known Officer G for going on 3 years. So he obviously is a wealth of knowledge. I wish he can stay a little bit longer so that way I can kind of dig into his mind when it comes to doing this SRO thing. But I'm open. I'm an open person. I love to talk. So I can probably stand up here the whole rest of the meeting if you guys want me to, full of stories and all that stuff too. So, but yeah, I you know, thank you for the opportunity to be an SRO in the school district. I've only heard good things about the school district, so I hope that my experiences can, you know, just, I guess, help the school district grow and, you know, build a stronger bond with the kids. And, you know, if you guys need anything, I'm on shifts for the rest of the summer, so I'll be out on the street. And then in August, I'll be back doing SRO things. But yeah, I'll be around. And like I said, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, whatever it is, or you just want to get to know me better, by all means, my email.
Thank you, Adam.
Absolutely.
Really good to meet you. You know, I one of the things that Chris, you taught me early on, and I think Ryan has carried this out, is the bulk of your work, the bulk of your effectiveness is preventative. That it's preventative, right, not enforcement. What you do when you communicate, the relationships, all those kinds of things is to prevent the bigger things from happening later. And most of your work, we don't get to see as board members, you know, you're in the schools all the time. But where we do see it is in the really critical times. The times we hate the most is when we're sitting here in an expulsion hearing. And often you guys are involved in that. And we look at the paperwork and realize what the role these guys have played in all the steps and things that happen prior to it getting to that sort of thing. And so we recognize the importance of that work and how critical that is to prevent that, and how few of those expulsion hearings we end up having to have as a result of that work. So anyway, this is important, and we're so glad you three were here tonight. Are there any questions or anything else for these guys? Thanks a million for being here. Thanks again, Chris.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Administrative reports. Mark and Peggy, I guess you're going to give us some information. I'll let you introduce the topic and then show us what you're going to show us tonight.
I really didn't need to raise that up. I don't know why I did. not very much taller than Adam. So we are here, I'm here with Peggy. I'm working with the Director of Student Services to just give you a little update on the GEDO 2 program. This is a program that I think we came and talked to you about in, I believe it was October or November. And gave you quite a bit of information about the why, about kind of the importance of the program. And so I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update. This isn't a program that you just get to sign up and just do without going through some legwork. And so there was an application process. I worked with Peggy, worked with Mr. Silver, Chris at the Renaissance, as well as the Student Services team. We filled the application out. We submitted it to DPI, and recently we were approved to host our program. Oh, thank you, Peggy. So recently Sherry Holly provided us approval for the program, which is really, really exciting. It's a program that we're planning on opening and doing in the fall. We additionally have been working really hard on identifying students who will be a really good fits for the program. I mentioned the other, when we talked in the fall about some of the requirements for the program, and I'll go into that in just a bit, but we've been really working through the list as far as kind of the students that would be important for this program. And then finally, part of the program in many of districts, they send their students to Northwoods Tech to do the testing. We are in the process, and this is some great work on Peggy and Chris's part, to apply to be our own testing site. And so there's a lot of legwork that goes into that as well. And being an approved testing site will eliminate a lot of logistics as far as getting them to and from Northwoods Tech in New Richmond. And so that's also really, really exciting. So lots of really good things that are happening as far as getting the program up and running. Just by way of quick review, why this is so important is we have a number of students, a small number of students, but a number of students who really at this point in time during their senior year have no viable pathway to graduation by traditional means of credits. And that has happened for a variety of different things. It could be students who have had medical issues that haven't been able to attend school, students with mental health concerns that have gone to day treatment or residential placement. We have a group home in town, so students that might come into the group home. So for a variety of different scenarios and situations, we have students that really have not been able to get the credits to be able to participate in traditional graduation. And so rather than just saying, you know, good luck, we really wanted to create a program that would allow them to access that diploma. And this is not about lowering the bar. This is really about creating systems that are equitable and allowing those students to be able to achieve that high school diploma. There are some qualifications for GEDO 2 as well. You have to be able to read at a 9th grade level. You have to be 17 years of age, and you have to be a certain number of credits behind. So this can't be just a student's senior year that says, I just want to take the easy path. I want to get, go down this way to get traditional graduation. So really, this is really designed for a very specific group of students with some specific criteria. There's some meetings and some logistics as far as kind of the application for the process, working with parents on getting kind of some expectations in place, and we're working through all of that, and Peg will talk about that in a second. So we'll talk a little bit about logistics, and I'll turn it over to Peggy to discuss that.
I'm Peggy Webb. I'm the Renaissance Charter Academy Coordinator for the 2024-2025 school year, so thank you for that opportunity. I don't have my cheaters on, so I might have to turn to the left here. We're going to be hosting the program right in our building in room 170. We have a place that's designated that will be where students will have their own separate entrance. They'll come in at 9 o'clock, and they will have classes from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday will be academic instruction, and then Wednesdays we'll have ACP Day, financial literacy, and other health requirements that the board has set forth for graduation. They will be focusing primarily on math, science, and English, and then Wednesdays, like I had mentioned, they'll do life skills, employability skills, post-secondary work, and CTE coursework. On Wednesday, Ms. Muller, our school counselor, will be addressing that content area. On the academic days, we hired Mitchell Kallenbach. He'll be joining us on staff this year, who will do that academic prep work for the students. So while our students are present, they will have access to our regular staff, which will be Mr. Kallenbach for the academic instruction. Miss Jenna Hansen will be doing the work-based learning and CTE. The school guidance counselor will be Miss Muller, and she will be working with students who want to pursue post-secondary education options as well. And then program compliance and reporting will fall on myself. And we're just really excited to have this opportunity. We already have, to date, we have 22 potential students that have the that could meet this opportunity. 10 have admitted to that they are willing to move forward with the program. 5 of them have been assessed for their reading ability, so that they already qualify for the programming. And the really wonderful thing about this GED program is that if they've already done some coursework and have met the state requirements towards graduation, they don't have to take that GED prep work. So we have some students that 6 of them have already met the health requirement, 1 has met the math, 1 has met social studies, and 7 have met the civics requirement already. So they've already put in a lot of the legwork already so that they can move through the program at an accelerated pace. The students will be using a software program called Edmentum, and that is GED appropriated software that will prep them for their test. We currently have on the books for August 13th a orientation for students to come in and meet with the staff so that they are well aware of the program expectations. But prior to that, the week of July 8th, we will be sending out follow-up letters to the remaining 12 students that haven't committed to the program at this time. Anything else?
Okay. Thank you. This is good. And I remember we had that was a really good committee meeting last fall. Monica, you weren't there, but we actually met in the new building, and they gave us a nice tour. And as part of that, then we ended up hearing about this. This was the first time we kind of heard about it. And let me summarize this as I understand it in my real layman's terms, real oversimplified, but as I understand it, we have a group of students that because they are required to stay in school till a certain age, but they aren't accumulating enough credits, they're almost like spinning their wheels at a certain point at which they're just there and they don't have enough credits to graduate, but they still have to be in school. This addresses that group of students. That gives them a path then who, for whatever reason, and you could give us a list of what those reasons are, and I'll bet you we'd find a whole bunch more new ones next year. There's all kinds of reasons why students reach this, that then they can actually get on a path to get the high school credential. The thing I liked about this, though, is this is more about just a credential. Because as I've often said, a credential might get you your first job, but if you don't have the education and background, you won't get your second or third job. So this really ensures that they have the academic content in our standards before they get that credential and puts them on that path to do that so that they don't have to do it on their own or they're not just hanging out or those kinds of things. Is that kind of what this is? Am I understanding this correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Peg talked a little bit about Wednesdays and the focus of Wednesdays being around ACP stuff. And so, yeah, we could have just said, yeah, you just need to take the academic testing and you're good. We wanted to layer on top of that to provide that exact same reason that we need them to kind of not only just be academically ready, but also to have that transition piece in place, be career ready or ready for kind of the next step in their educational career. So we were very excited to incorporate that into the program.
Yeah, formal way.
Academic and career planning.
And Mark, do you maybe want to touch on the difference between our graduate and what their transcript looks like versus someone who earns this option? What's the same, but then also what's different about them?
Yeah, so the same would be that both students who are graduating from the GEDO 2 program and a traditional high school graduate will have a high school diploma. So that will be the same either way. The students will end up with a high school diploma. When it comes to their transcript, that might look a little different because they won't have the traditional list of classes on the transcript. But when you look at like some like technical school options and those kind of things, those students would definitely be able to kind of enter into that. When we're looking at four-year schools, there might need to be a starting place with a two-year school first, but that would still be a viable option for them down the road if they chose to do so.
But they'll still have a River Falls High School transcript.
Correct.
And then just one other point of clarification, you mentioned Mitchell. That's not a staff add. That's a reorganization of our Wren staff. So our staffing at the Wren is the same as it was in 23-24 into 24-25. So in other words, we're adding this program, but we're not adding staff.
Yeah.
I have a couple questions. I'm sorry I wasn't a part of the committee meeting where this was discussed, so maybe these things came up as a part of that. But I'm curious if I'm understanding it's right. These are probably kids who would not have graduated, and we're going upstream to try to, if they hadn't graduated, they would go out into the world and then hopefully at some point they would get their GED later. This is helping them get their GED upfront, recognizing that they're not going to graduate. This isn't going to happen. Let's help you get your GED while you're still here, if we can support you. Is that the idea?
Yeah, that is correct. And not only that, but again, we're giving those students hope, their senior year, rather than they're spending their senior year
And
with, like
you're not
Alan
gonna get out
mentioned,
here.
without being able to drop out.
Sure.
And now, what are they going to do during that year? A lot of times
Okay.
there's some different things that happen,
Okay.
behaviorally or with attendance. And so this provides them hope that they can make that.
And then I'm curious too, again, if this was discussed, I apologize. Have other school districts done this in Wisconsin or across the country? And is there demonstration of success with this, that these kids actually do get into work and become productive more rapidly?
Yeah, well, I can't speak to necessarily the last part of that, but part of the program requirements are that you are 80% effective over a 3-year span. So in order to get reapproved, you have to, over a 3-year kind of rolling average, make 80% of the students going into the program have to achieve the end goal.
Okay.
So that is very important. Many of our neighbors have this similar program. In my former district, Prescott, they have it there.
Okay.
I believe Ellsworth has it. There's a couple other ones that are local as well. I think New Richmond, a few others. So, yeah.
Oh, good to know. Thanks.
Yeah.
I had one, maybe two questions. Sounds like these students will be coming in 15 hours a week, leaving at noon. Will they be released at noon? They're done with their schoolwork. So I'm curious to know what you anticipate or what you imagine those particular students doing with the rest of their day. Is there some guidance or some support that you're doing to help them use that time wisely, or to continue to prepare themselves for life after high school?
Yeah, so part of that Wednesday ACP work will be all around kind of working on job skills, job placements. So in an ideal world, after the 15 hours, because it's only a portion of the day, these students are able to go out and get a job, practice some of those kind of soft skills, so those employment skills, so that again, at the end of the day, they are ready for that next step.
And one of the staff members that you mentioned that will be part of this is Jenna Hansen, and she's the school to work coordinator. So she would be assisting in the role of helping them obtain employment.
Awesome. And then you mentioned us becoming a testing site, which sounds like a positive thing. Would that open us up to having other surrounding schools come and test here, or will that be exclusively for River Falls students? We haven't gotten that far. Okay. I was under the assumption that was just an opportunity for our students. Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you.
We're so fortunate to have the Renaissance Academy that we can do this through, and your willingness to take this on as an additional project. I think it fits well with what we do and that mission of what we're thinking about there, and appreciate your leadership in this, Peggy. So, any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mark and Peggy. Appreciate it. Okay, additional things from the superintendent's report. Dave?
Yeah, the first item is a school forest update. We're excited that the local River Falls Rotary will be paying for the construction of a new pavilion-style facility at the school forest prairie location. Rotary is currently going through the process of gathering bids for the excavation and ground prep, and preparing, as well as the building itself. And plans are to have the facility built before the snow flies. So we're very excited for that partnership with Rotary and the work that they've done to coordinate that. And I would want to call out Jamie Benson for his work to both as a Rotary member and as leading the work here for the school forest to get that work done. The Rotary is excited to lead this, and obviously there's a lot of different components that come together to make it work, but we're real excited for that.
If you remember, in our community survey that we did last fall, we asked a whole variety of topics to the public. Would you be willing to support this? This facility was ranked fairly low. I mean, low, not anywhere close to us being able to put it on the ballot. So this was an opportunity for us as a district to try and find a private partner, and the Rotary is really interested in doing this. So
And
it
one
was
thing,
a great way.
yeah, one thing, just that when I say pavilion style, it's going to be a structure that, I mean, one thing they didn't want was a building that's a enclosed structure. I mean, it's a school forest, it's a prairie area. They want it to be outside, and so it still will be. That also assists in how expensive it would be. So.
Yeah, I'd say, I'm a Rotary member, so
Yeah.
I'd say that building would be stretching the definition of building. It's like a pavilion
Yep.
is what they have in mind. That could be enhanced at a later date, but it'll be very functional to protect students who are out there from the elements.
Yep. And it's built, and like you said, it's built where walls could be added.
Could be added,
But they would
so.
they wouldn't be, again,
Right.
indoor.
Yeah, it'll be a great addition to the area.
And referendum?
Yep.
update?
So referendum update real quickly, and I think there'll be an action item on this later. We're transitioning to a new architect, Bray, and we're finalizing the contract details once we work through all of the final documents with our former architect LHB. So much of the initial schematic design details are done and will be handed off to Bray, and the next steps will include specific design details to include specifics with the interior and exterior facility improvements. Once those specs are complete, we'll work with our construction management firm, KA, to obtain bids in late November, early December. And so our construction timeline will include starting in late spring of '25 into the summer of '25 with the final completion of all projects in 2026. So one of the larger projects is at the middle school, and that will take place over 2 summers. The rest of the projects should be done by fall of '25.
Okay. Thanks, Dave. So work is underway on that project. Number 6, we'll move on to number 6, action items. So these will be, take action on the May 20th, 2024 regular board meeting minutes, the May 22nd, 2024 special Board of Education meeting minutes, the June 3rd, 2024 Board of Education retreat minutes, bills submitted for payment, and let's see, so the number 5 item is all employees who are required by state shall be recommended to the superintendent to the Board of Education for approval. All recommendations presented at this time are pursuant to approval by board policies and accompanying administrative procedures. So any questions about those 5 items? Is there a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Been moved, second?
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion about those 5 items? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. We'll move on to item B, consideration or action to approve the June 10, 2024 Education Program Committee recommendations. So we have 4 items here. I chaired that committee, and it was a very good meeting, very good meeting. We had a lot of discussion on this. There's 4 different items there. Let's take them separately. Let's not take them as a group. We've had a lot of discussion throughout the year about books, the library media plan, lots of conversation back and forth, input all along the way, including at our last meeting that we've taken seriously. The librarians were here the last meeting. We had that was a really good conversation with them. So I don't know, Nate, do you want to give us just a brief summary of what this media plan is about?
Yep. Excuse me, I'd love to do that. So required by the state is that a district has a comprehensive library media plan, and it's something that we learned about at the beginning of this school year. So the librarians across the district have spent much of the year working on putting this plan together, following a format that was recommended to them by the DPI. So we brought that to you last week, a couple weeks ago. And since the time of that meeting, we've made a couple of adjustments that I think were shared in the attachments, and I highlighted those for you to review. The first one that I wanted to point out was on slide 6, and it's a goal related to our policies. And something we talked about or was mentioned already tonight was 361.2, which is the selection of library instructional media materials. And our librarians have worked very carefully together over the years in trying to ensure that the processes used to select materials was consistent across the district, but yet we've got people in multiple buildings and with different levels of responsibility. So a goal that was added from the time that we presented was to create a rule that would connect with 361.2, where we would outline the steps that all librarians would follow to select materials that were not only age appropriate, but also the right kinds of materials for the library. So we'd be talking about things in this rule could be talking with classroom teachers about content area specific materials that are in short supply in our library so we could support in the classroom learning. Growing certain series where there's been new additions to series of books that kids are really enthralled with. When coming across a book that has multiple ratings for age appropriateness, like we talked about at that last meeting, that we have certain organizations that we check with, and organization A might say, yeah, this is age appropriate for grades 3 through 6, and the next one might say 4 through 8, and the next one might say 5 through 9, that there are certain steps that those people would follow to vet that resource before making the purchase. All of these things are pretty closely aligned with what they currently do, but we thought having it in writing would be good for consistency and also transparency for the community. These people want the exact same things that the parents want. They want books in kids' hands that the kids will enjoy and be engaged with, and that are age appropriate. The trouble is, there are sometimes differences in opinion about what is age appropriate, which is why we have a policy that does have 3 parents involved, the complainant, a person that they recommend, and a parent that's put on the committee by the principal. So there's actually 3 parents on that committee, not just 2. And sometimes we get to that point. Sometimes we are made aware of a book that is in our library that maybe a librarian who is new-ish to the district might not have been made aware of. And sometimes they take a look at it and go, oh my gosh, this isn't aligned with what we believe in, and they just make that move on their own. So there are lots of ways that we try and partner with parents. In addition to that, this year there was a concerted effort in sharing information with parents to be partners and to review and look at the materials that are being brought home, and not to be afraid to reach out and let us know if there are certain types of books. Like, for instance, scary books is one we hear of a lot at the elementary, because my kid is going to have nightmares, and then that means I'm awake, and that means I'm tired, and now everybody's cranky at home. So there are ways that we can accomplish that too. So that was the first thing I wanted to point out, was the rule. And then there are 3 different parts in this plan on page, I believe it's 8, 10, and 16. And I don't know if you remember, there were multiple wedges that make up the plan that kind of encircle the learner-centered literacy. So this is mentioned in the overview of learner-centered literacy, also in the wedge of curriculum instruction and assessment, and also in the budget and allocation of resources. So we had some good feedback. The media specialists were actually having, the meeting after the meeting in the parking lot, which so often happens. And I reached out to them the following day. Oh yeah, we're already thinking about that. How can we do that? And I said, well, let's talk about what those changes could be, and I think we can submit them to the board prior to making this approval tonight. So that's probably a longer update than what you needed, but I wanted to be thorough on how that came together.
So that's the reason there's some, I mean, what the committee saw, there's a little bit of addition to it, and we see it outlined, and I think that's what we were looking for on that. I did appreciate in that conversation, first off, I appreciated the fact that they were all here, and we could have this conversation, because like in a number of other situations, when they can sit and have the conversation, not just among themselves or with their administrators, but with us as the board, who represent the community, and they sort of understand, and we can sort of walk through some of the questions we're having. I think I was really very comfortable with their responses and answers. So when we talked about the thing about age appropriate, there's just not a single definition like it's just reading level. Okay, age appropriate isn't just reading level. It's age appropriate is broader. It's a little more nebulous because one person's age appropriate might be a little bit different, but to have that conversation, have that consideration, and I think I was comfortable understanding that it was more than just reading level on it. The other was, though, and I think they were all very clear, that they are more than willing and eager to have conversations one-on-one with parents to talk through this. And I think they heard from us and we heard from them sort of our feelings about this. We don't want parents to feel intimidated. However, we know that just because someone doesn't agree on either side doesn't necessarily mean that this needs to be an intimidating process. The conversation needs to be there whether it goes your way or not on either side. But how open and willing our expectation is that they be, and that they certainly seem to be willing to be. And I thought that coming out of that conversation, I was really pleased to hear that too.
Yeah, one thing I should mention, is that even reading level, Alan, is not black and white, nor is there a perfect definition. Sometimes people rely heavily on the Lexile level and might assume that that is an accurate depiction of the reading level of a story, and that certainly is part of it. But when that boils down to word frequency and average sentence length, now we're missing some things about the quality of the book and the tone and the structure and the way that the book is written in terms of prose or content within it. So even that is a little bit nebulous, maybe not so much. You could make the argument maybe not as much as age appropriateness, but certainly isn't a clear black and white issue.
Other comments, questions about the policy as presented?
Alan stole most of the comments that I was wanting to share, so I'll just add a general statement I expressed at the committee meeting, and I'll just repeat it here for the good of the group. There was a tremendous amount of work that went into this plan, and it's an important plan to have in place. And the piece that I appreciated most about it is there was a real intention to align the goals in this plan with our strategic plan and the goals that are outlined in our strategic plan. So I think that was important to note that we do have that alignment, and I appreciate the additions that were made too. I think it was a great conversation to have and an important thing to include here.
Yeah, I don't want to belabor the point, but I do want to add that, I feel badly that the plan came to the board without having some of that language in there, and really it was my responsibility to review that and identify it, and I didn't prior to the meeting, but sometimes we miss things as, what's the phrase, when you're so close to, can't see the forest through the trees, and it was just overlooked. It wasn't intended to be. We spend so much time talking about and thinking about, worrying about those kinds of things. Believe me, that was just an oversight on our part.
We're a team here. That's what thank you.
So I will move that we approve the school district library media plan as revised in the revision that was presented to us tonight. Is there a second?
Was there a motion? Did you move?
I just moved.
Oh,
I
sorry,
moved
I'll
it.
second.
I moved it, yeah. Okay. Moved in second. Any other conversation? Yes.
No, second? You need a second? Oh, okay.
I got it.
I thought you said you need a second, I'm sorry.
Any other conversation? Questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you, Nate, and thank the librarians again for all their work on that.
You bet.
Can you give us a brief update on what we talked about for the Title III plan and what we need to act on tonight?
Yep, the Title III plan is another element similar to the library plan that the Department of Public Instruction in Wisconsin uses to make sure that we have the proper systems and structures in place to support our multilingual learners. And that's what the Title III plan outlines. Natalie Gomez is our Title III program assistant. She's phenomenal. She did almost all of the work to put that Title III plan in place. And a lot of those structures are embedded, and there are some things that we'll have to grow in to make sure that we're living out that plan. Our multilingual population continues to grow in River Falls, and part of the reason for that, I think, is because we have a good program in place. And word travels fast among the community of English learner families, and people want to be here because we know that they know that we will work very hard to support them. We are reallocating some resources within the district to create some more EL teaching time. Again, not an ad, just some different use of time because our numbers keep going up, and that should help our program for now, but we'll have to pay close attention down the line so that we can support those students as well as we support any other student in the district.
Okay. Really appreciated Natalie giving that presentation to us.
Yeah,
That was really
she's
informative.
phenomenal.
That was very good. All right, so is there a motion to approve the Title III plan as submitted? So moved. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Is there any further conversation on that plan? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thanks again, Nate, for that.
Yep.
And then the elementary school extra year policy 345.44.
Yeah, so this is part of our ongoing policy review, and we're starting to dig into the 300 sections. This policy was last written in 2005, so it's 19 years old, and it reminds me of the Maya Angelou quote that says something like, do the best you can until you know better, and then when you know better, do better. And I think the philosophy under which this plan was written was based on what we knew 19 years ago. 19 years ago, holding kids back was a much more accepted practice. And now through almost 2 decades worth of research, we've learned that that retention oftentimes comes at the negative impact on students. So this policy is an update that aligns more closely with our current philosophy and the current research among the field of educational academia, which is let's figure out ways to support kids while they're in school rather than rely on just having them redo another year. There can be some benefits, but there are often many challenges, shame of having to redo another year, graduating, or maybe not, because a child might turn 18 early in their senior year and choose not to finish school. And the fact that really there isn't any evidence, educational research evidence, of academic growth related to retention. So that is a key factor. Now, if you look in this update, a couple of things that I want to point out is that this doesn't rule out retention as an option. In fact, it calls out that a student who might be extremely young, have very poor attendance, or experience trauma, which sounds like a situation that we just were briefed on tonight at the board, might be a good reason to consider an extra year for a student. Now, this is the elementary plan. Because we're doing all of these policies, it's really hard to do them in the perfect sequence, and you can't do them all at once. So we do have a 4th and 8th grade retention policy. We also have a retention policy for middle school students other than 8th grade. So we're working on those too, or will be working on those to bring to you, but this was the starting point because it worked with the lowest age students. So that's an update on that. Should also say that the final decision for this policy, which isn't a change, lies with the building principal, but it does say should be in favor by the parents. So there's a partnership where I can speak to at the elementary level, having had a lot of experience. When this is a consideration, there is no shortage of collaboration, partnership, meetings to discuss the pros and cons, meetings to discuss certain interventions that the schools are engaged in to try and get that child at the level that they need to be at.
Why is there, what's that last sentence about 4th grade? Is there a different policy for 4th grade?
Yep, there's a 4th and 8th grade retention policy. Yep.
Okay.
And that is one that we will be reviewing.
That is one that we will be doing. Yep, so 345.41 is the, I think the 4th and 8th grade retention policy.
Fourth and eighth grade. So 34544 only pertains to kindergarten through third,
Fifth grade.
fifth.
Yep. There's a state statute that talks about you need a specific policy for fourth and eighth grade.
Fourth, okay.
Yep.
For them to move forward. Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
A process question, is this considered the first reading at the board? And it will come back as a second reading? I
That's
just want to
correct.
make sure.
That's
Because
correct.
the way it's listed, it's under your report for Ed Pro, which is fine. I just want to make sure that we all understand this is the first
reading.
board
Correct.
reading. And
we
then we'll
had
come
the-
back as a second reading in
Correct.
July.
Yep. The very first exposure was at the last Ed Pro.
Yep.
This is the first board approval, and then the final one will come in July.
Yeah, and it'll be important because we have a few board members missing to
Yep.
make sure they have a chance to review.
Yep, thank you for that, Dave.
We didn't act on that one yet.
No, we have not.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept that first reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Is there any further conversation or questions about that? If none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. This will come back to us next board meeting for a second reading. And then approve the new school board policy 342, programs for children with disabilities.
Yeah, I think Mark can speak to this, but again, to echo what Dave said, from a process standpoint, this is the first approval for the full board, with the second one coming next month.
Okay.
Yeah, and related to this policy, as I shared kind of at the Ed Pro meeting, essentially we are updating this policy, which also is relatively old, and combining it with another policy that was kind of focused on inclusion, kind of mashing them together. Really no changes from what we talked about at Ed Pro, other than just kind of renaming. I think we referenced the policies and procedures manual. We referenced the official DPI policies and procedures manual and kind of that official name within that policy. We also updated a couple of the references or cross references on the bottom. So no major changes from before. Again, we incorporated all the kind of the things from the last policy as far as child find and the importance of parent participation and involvement and different things like that. So.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve policy 342, programs for children with disabilities, first reading as presented?
So moved.
I'll second. Is there any further discussion, questions about it? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, we'll see this back at our next meeting for a second reading. Thank you, Nate. Consideration and approval for the January 17th Finance and Facilities Committee recommendations. We have 3 items here that I think we should probably take separately. Mike isn't here to present, but maybe, Lynette, you can just walk us through each of those and we'll act on each one individually.
Sure can. So 23-24 budget revisions. This is a yearly or annual item that districts are, by statute, allowed to do, DPI policy. So what we do is we track our revenues and expenditures throughout the year, and we make those reports to the Finance Committee. We talk about where things are landing a little bit differently than where we started. So when the budget is officially adopted in October, and then we're tracking those how actuals are matching or not matching with our budgets. So as we get closer to the end of the year, what we like to do is make any adjustments that we know of. This is something that districts do around the state, hopefully. I say that in jest. Sorry. We still have a balanced budget, so we're still landing well at the end of the year. One of the things that this is used for, not only for the districts to be able to track where they're going to finish out their year, but it's also something that we report to DPI, and DPI uses this information to set the July 1 equalization aid estimate. And so it's really important that we provide the most accurate information of our budget. We don't know where the actuals are going to land yet, so they use the budget data to set the July 1 aid estimate. We talked a little bit about how in the news there's a lot of discussion about MPS, our largest district in the state, who has not only not reported last year's annual data to the state, but also hasn't provided their budget data for this year. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of them is that their software doesn't talk to what DPI is now using for collecting that data. Anyway. So we talked about how that aid estimate could be affected then. So once MPS does report all of that data and all of the districts report their actual data, that estimate changes. But we like to get as close as we can. Again, aid is only a piece of our revenue. Whether our aid goes up or down does not change how much revenue we have in the district. That's the revenue limit. So really what it does is it's this push and pull of tax levy versus aid. So the less aid we get, the higher our tax levy, and vice versa. So we do want to keep an eye on that because that is an important piece of how we report and how we communicate with the community as far as our tax levy goes. So keeping an eye on that. So those were the revisions we went through. I'm not going to belabor all of those items again tonight.
It was a good example of how one district in the state can kind of wag the dog on the rest of the state and the districts. I was really surprised that what's happening in Milwaukee can affect us.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I'd make a motion that we approve the 23-24 budget revisions.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. We had a really good conversation. That was a very good presentation you made on that, Lynette. Thank you. Any other questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Summer capital projects list.
Yeah, so with our Fund 46, or our Capital Improvement Fund, which was opened about 6 years ago, I believe, 6 or 7 years ago, with that, there's a requirement for a 10-year capital plan. And so we've updated that. Most of the reason is because those projects on that previous plan have either been completed or are now on our list to be completed with our referendum. So we needed to review that, look at what items we think are coming up in the next 10 years. So that's a far look out, and it will continue to change. It's a living, breathing document. But Joe and I met with Dave and Jamie, went through all of that. So we have a pretty good handle on this summer's projects, next summer, and some beyond, although, like I said, those will change. But we've updated that list, and I believe it's in the packet. I think Monica said page 59.
Page 59.
If anybody's following along at home, they can find it there.
Lynette, you said this is reviewed every year, right? Did you say that already?
Yes, we do review that annually. Yep.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the 10-year summer capital projects list?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded. Any further conversation or questions about that? Again, that list is in the minutes, or if somebody wants it, they can contact Lynette to get that list.
You bet.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. And then we need to authorize our architect. So, or as Dave said, we're changing architectural services here. We need board action to do that. So I will move that we authorize the administration to enter into the architectural services contracted by Bray Architects.
So moved.
Second. Any other further conversation, questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Personnel Committee.
Before you move on, Alan, one more item that was part of the Finance and Facilities Committee was the preliminary 24-25 budget. And I just wanted to point out that we do have a balanced budget estimated for next year, so our projection for next year. We have also included, of course, since the last time we were really projecting our budget, we have both of the referendums in our projections, so those are put into our budgets for next year and the impact on those. We're still using the same property value growth, so we're still comparing apples to apples as far as mill rate impact for next year compared to what we were communicating with the referendum communication campaigns. And right now, compared to what we were communicating with both referendums passing, the mill rate increase we had estimated to be 63 cents the first year. And right now, we're estimating a 48-cent increase for next year. So we're pleased to say that things are looking better than what we had estimated to begin with. So I just wanted to make that.
Projecting a lower mill rate than we had originally thought.
Correct.
Good. Good news. Anything else? Okay, let's move on to Personnel Committee recommendations. And there we had two actions, I guess. Again, updating job descriptions. And I think we can probably do those together. We have an updated and slightly revised Director of Community Ed and Community Education Program Assistant job descriptions. And we had some updates to the employee handbook revisions. Are we okay taking both of those? Unless, I think we had good conversation.
I would move to approve both of those items.
Monica, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further conversation or discussion about those?
I just note real quickly, we also did a certified staffing update and a couple of administrator positions that we will be interviewing for this week. Westside Principal, Dr. Camerath, got a district administrator job in Plum City, and so we've posted that position and we're in the interview process, as well as the Director of Academic Services. Most of you know that Dr. Sherman is going to move into the Director of Human Resources and Leadership Development position on July 1st. And so that's the other set of interviews that we'll be doing this week. And we've got a process in which we have a first round of interviews and a second round of interviews and a screening committee that helps select the people that we choose to interview. And that allows us to have lots of different stakeholders have the opportunity to participate in that process. We're very excited to have those positions filled and anticipate, once we know who that candidate is, working with them to find a start date that helps us prepare for the start of the year. And then the other piece that I just want to touch on from personnel is that we approved our Advanced Learning Grant Award winners. We have 12 different employees who earned an Advanced Learning Grant, which is basically helps offset or reimburse some of the costs that they are spending out of their own pocket to increase their capacity to do their jobs. The vast majority of them are going to complete a master's, and others are doing other certifications that help them achieve their job. So just an exciting piece for our staff to go through. So.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Yep.
Before we leave this, we need to vote on that motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Good. There was a really good discussion, and I think Dave got some good background information in our conversations at that meeting, too. Okay, so under C, we have, again, continuing to address changes in policies and update our policies. This is quite an undertaking, and it's kind of an ongoing thing. But what we've got here are this is second readings on all of these. So we have seen these before. The 100 level policies that we've got listed here, we saw in a previous board meeting and we talked about. The 345 and 372 actually came through committee, then the first board meeting, now the second board meeting. So I'm wondering if we just can't take all of these together, since this is at least the second, if not third time we've seen these. And if that's okay, I would move that we adopt and approve those 7 revised school board policies as presented.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion about those? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Excuse me. Proposed or suggested items for next regular future board meetings?
Big changes. Just kidding. I couldn't resist.
Snacks?
Snacks. Excuse me. All right, so next board meeting, scheduled meetings. Note that there's only 2 weeks of meetings next month because of the way the 4th of July falls. So we'll have a trifecta on July 15th. Ed programs, finance, and personnel should probably meet between about 6 and 6:30. We should be able to do all 3 of those. Be an interesting night, but we've done it before. We've done 3 committee meetings in one night before, and I think it's very workable when we do it occasionally that way. Then our regular board meeting will be July 22nd. Anything else about upcoming meetings? Okay, we do not need to go into a closed session tonight. So that's it. Anything else?
Oh, my God.
7:24.
Buckets.
I told you I was going to use the gavel.